As timelines collide, friendships implode, new evidence emerges, and the shocking truth is revealed in more ways than one. You're with Cruel Summer Camp. Hey guys, what's up?
Hello.
You are listening to or watching Cruel Summer Camp, the most inclusive or inclusive Cruel Summer podcast. Um, this was fortunately not the last time for a while that you'll hear that theme music, because we are going to be covering season 1. So we're really sad that this season's over, but we're really excited to start season 1 in a couple of weeks. So
Yeah,
that's
and I think there's a lot of people who are really excited to share their thoughts and feelings about season 1. When you started your sentence saying the good thing is it's not over, I literally thought you might tell me that there's another episode after this episode and it's not the finale, because I feel like we could have used just a little bit more. Like if they just had 15 minutes more, like answer some more of my questions. I have so many questions.
I have we have so many questions. I'm worried for Michelle.
Yeah,
Um
poor girl.
I'm scared that her days are numbered. Like,
Definitely. Also, I want to. I mean, I want to see Isabella go down for the crime. Like, I want to see Megan like try to get justice.
yeah. Yeah. The look on her face at the end of the episode just screamed, I'm going to avenge Luke's death.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh my god. I need to say, okay, two things that are really heavily on my mind. First of
Hmm.
all, okay, I do put I actually do put some blame on Brent, because he went after him. He went in the water after him. So,
Yeah.
and it was freezing cold. Um, but the guy hit his head and it was fucking loud. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't hear that. I mean,
That
Brent, you're a fucking idiot.
Yes, that he paused the way he did to be like, "Oh, maybe Luke's joking." It's like, what about that makes you think your brother's joking? He hit his
Yeah.
head. He's definitely unconscious. I also don't like, maybe it was those integral like 15 seconds of him being like, "Luke, Luke." But I'm like, how far could Luke have gone that you can't even see him? You can't find him anymore on the water. And also, like, I feel like if it was me, my gut instinct wouldn't be like, Luke's dead, it's over, gotta go. I'd be like, I'm calling 911 right now, because if they can get him in 5 minutes, there's a chance he's still alive.
Yeah. Which apparently he was.
Yeah.
um, and but my two things that really stuck with me after this. What is it with this family blaming each other for deaths that really are not their faults? Like, I mean, it it's weird.
They can't
It's
cope
weird.
with, you know, we'll get into it. I feel like when we talk about Mrs. Chambers, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think they have a real issue taking responsibility and coping with the loss of family members too.
Yeah. Um and my second thought is, god damn it. Cruel Summer, why do you keep doing this to us? Like,
Yeah,
I feel
when the episode ended, I was like, okay, so I guess that's this show's like thing now. is like something crazy happens in the last 25 seconds, which is, I don't know, like kind of a funny way to brand yourself.
You know, I'm painfully aware that in my own personal life, I don't have the best judgment in people. I give people the benefit of the doubt too much. And this show just reminds me of that a little bit too much. And I'm yeah, I'm sorry. I can't I can't be an Isabella apologist anymore. Um and I'm calling myself a temporary Brent apologist. Um because whether it was Braden De La Garza's phenomenal acting in this episode, holy shit, he was so good.
Yeah.
Um, whether it was that or just like, it finally just hitting him, just like how fucked up his family is. Um, I I like to think that all of this is gonna change him for the better going forward.
I think so. I think
And
so for sure.
yeah, I like to think that he's actually going to be a decent human being from this point on. Um, and he's not gonna he's not gonna have the easy, privileged, advantaged life that he
Oh
had.
no. He's gonna have a lot against him now carrying the Chamber's name. I mean, that article that came out that Megan was reading,
Mhm.
everyone knows. So
Yeah,
it's really scorched earth for him. And also I feel like he still is is and should be facing jail time.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, definitely. But, well, yeah, I don't know, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's so what exactly will he be facing jail time for? Planting evidence.
Planting
Um,
evidence, I'd still say, I mean, he dealt Luke that blow to the head that, I mean, even if you didn't know about this stuff at the very end with Isabella is really the one who killed him, he hit his head and Luke like essentially nearly drowned. So I feel like that's like still like manslaughter.
yeah. Um, yeah. It's I mean, I would hope that he would get off a lot easier than Steve.
Yeah.
Um, I would hope that Steve is gonna go away for a long time.
Well, I mean, Steve
Um,
covered up murder. He not to mention all the inappropriate times he's patronized Megan, Isabella, Debbie. Like he's really got his hands in the court case. He's trying to intimidate and pressure the sheriff. Like there's so many things he's trying to manipulate. Also, I'm so sure his business is seedy too.
yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. God, poor Debbie, like, she's out of a job now, like
Yeah, that's why she couldn't even show up this episode.
Oh,
She's
man.
busy smoking pot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Megan will be making the big bucks soon enough. She'll be able to help support her,
For sure.
hopefully.
Should we jump in, Kelly?
Yeah. What did you think of this episode overall?
Um, let's see. Well, I don't know. It just didn't give me all the answers I was looking for. I was shocked it didn't address Jeff and the camera equipment. It's like I just feel like it wasn't that the episode itself was disappointing. It's that now the show is over and we're not returning to these characters. And there's a lot we still don't have answers about. So for me, it's just more like by principle that there's so much that's unanswered that I'm like, oh, well then why did you open this can of worms for us if like you're never going to return to it? So it's like Debbie being sick. That wasn't important at all. That's just a conduit for Isabella to hypothetically stay. And it's nothing more than that. Like the Lisa stuff. You mean to tell me like the Lisa relationship is that uncomplicated? It's just that she drowned and Luke also drowned, and isn't that a coincidence that Isabella's friends keep dying from drowning? Like I'm just like, oh, that's it? Like that's why that was in there. Also, Megan, what is taking those pills? And that also doesn't matter. Like I feel
Yeah.
like some stuff must have been cut. Like storylines were like partially cut and we're kind of seeing like the remains of them. But just clear it all out. Like why make Debbie sick? Why was Debbie sick? Really?
Yeah.
Because Isabella could have she was there or well, I guess she stayed in the 2000s timeline. She's being investigated. Like it would have made sense to me if she was around town still. Or they could have
Yeah.
said she had like passport issues or visa issues or, whatever. The investigation delayed her. Luke being missing, you know, required her to continue staying in the US. Like, it just didn't have to be this like throwaway thing. Debbie really never stood up for Megan or did anything that really redeemed herself. We never find out what happened to the baby. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we assume Megan had an abortion, but like, also, we never know why Megan chooses to dress the way she did.
Yeah. I think she yeah, I don't know.
It's like,
I
oh,
have no
she's
idea.
sad, so she would dress like this. It's like, well, I mean, really? You think that's it? When people are sad, they get their eyebrows pierced? Yeah, that is right. They do get their eyebrows pierced when they're sad, actually. But, it's just a little like, it's a little more nuanced than that. And I mean, it's like I've talked about before. Like, when she dresses like that, she's going to draw attention to herself. We see her setting up for, like, okay, act like everything's normal, act like everything's this. It's like, okay, well, then why would you do that to draw attention to yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. Um yeah, like her style totally changed within a few months.
And
Very
she did
interesting.
go away to college, but it's like they could have had some throwaway line where Brent like is like, "Hey, like you go to school here and then your style completely changes." Like even if there was like a half a sentence like that, that would have explained a little bit of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, true. Um yeah. God. I really I feel like this season almost needs a follow-up more than the first season.
I agree.
Yeah. Ay.
If this
Yeah,
was the
I
second to the last episode, I'd be better with that. Like,
yeah.
if there was something where we could know or not know if they're catching Isabella or if like she's gonna show that to Jack or if she's just gonna go take off on the run for Isabella, but it's like it just feels kind of incomplete. Whereas like the first season, I feel like the ending is like, oh, like, well, everything was wrapped up, genuinely. Like, they wrapped everything up of like, hey, Kate's with this girl now, like, Jeanette's doing better. Like, they're kind of they're each doing their own things, but everything's as good as it can be. Oh, we forgot to present this information to you. it's this. But that's all in the past.
Yeah.
With this, it's like, oh no, like they like is Megan gonna do anything about this? And it's like, well, I hope so. I guess I'll just keep dreaming.
Oh man. Um, yeah, agree. There was a lot that was left out that I wish would had been answered. But
Yeah.
um, but yeah, yeah. Um, maybe maybe one day they'll decide to revisit these characters. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, let's why don't you why don't you take us why don't you start us take us into the start of the episode?
Yeah. So we open on Luke alone on the dock. It was the closing shot from last time. He says, I didn't expect you to come. And it's Brent. And he's wearing the outfit I'm wearing.
Yep.
Or a similar look. Not I didn't get the colors exactly right, but close enough.
Yeah.
Um, and this is intercut with Steve waking up, and he goes downstairs and finds footsteps all over the house. Brent is soaking wet and crying at the kitchen counter. And then we cut back to Steve running to the dock by the cabin looking for Luke. So I mean, right there, it's like I was like, that's interesting because we're led to presume that Brent killed Luke or that like these two things happen. Luke is dead, he's gone, but Steve knows about it. That's what my takeaway was, even by like the first time I watched this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, that's what I figured. Um, but yeah, I'm like I I how did you feel about them like not really I mean, how did you feel about them not explaining right away what happened?
I was fine. I felt like there was going to be more to the picture.
Yeah.
I figured that they would come back to it and it'd be like a dramatic beat.
I mean, did you assume that it was an accident or did you assume that like that maybe Brent actually did something deliberately?
I was starting to think he did something deliberately.
Um that's what I felt. That's what I felt too. Yeah, I think that's I mean, and yeah, I think they wanted us to think that way.
Yeah.
Um and I'm glad I'm glad that it didn't like I'm glad it didn't go that route because I just don't think that would have I think that would have been that I just think that would have been really unrealistic.
I mean,
Um
here's the thing. I would say he still did something deliberately. I mean, he still pushed Luke and Luke hit his head. Like, it's like, yeah, technically Luke wasn't dead until Isabella killed him, but like, for me, I'm like, Brent, like, still basically killed him.
it's I don't know. I give him a bit more grace on that. Like,
It wasn't, I think Isabella meditated, or no, excuse me, Isabella premeditated him, meditated, unmeditated. What's the other one? You thought it out, and then what's the one where you didn't think it out?
um, I don't know. Is there a word for that?
Yeah, I think it's like premeditated is like, oh, I've been planning it this whole time. I've been planning to murder you. And then there's separate charges if you like didn't mean to kill someone but you did. That's what
Yeah.
I think. Whatever phrasing or terminology that would be, that's what I think Brent would get or should get.
Gotcha. Um, well, I think oh, yeah, I think that would be I think that's, yeah, I think that's manslaughter. Is
Okay.
that manslaughter? I think that's manslaughter. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's manslaughter. Um, but yeah, I mean, I give him I give him the benefit of the doubt on that though, because it was January and he jumped in after him. Um, I just think he was being really dumb in that moment because, like, he didn't like. I don't know if he didn't hear him hit his head or what, but um, but if he didn't jump in after him, then I think I then yeah, I would definitely agree with you. But I the fact that he jumped in after him in January makes me give him some grace on that.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I I have a lot of feelings about this family and how they deal with with situations like this.
Oh, yeah. This family's a mess.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Mess.
sure.
Everyone's either in jail or dead by the end in the Chambers family.
God.
Only 2 places for the Chambers.
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly.
So Isabella and Megan arrive home. They get up to Megan's room, and Megan says she wants to untie Luke first thing in the morning. Isabella says they let him off easy. And Megan is totally outraged by this. She also doesn't think it was an accident that Isabella shot him.
Yeah, you know, and by Isabella's reaction, I'm starting to think the same thing too.
Okay, so I felt like Isabella intended to shoot him, but how much of it do you think she actually planned out?
Um, I mean, it was totally Megan's idea to I mean, Isabella just wanted to enjoy the party and forget about Luke. Um, Megan's the one that wanted to, like, do something to get revenge on him.
Yeah.
Um, but, so, so I really don't know. Um, I really don't know, but, I mean, it kind of shocked me that Isabella was, like, horrified by the idea of going back and untying him. I'm like, "Are you fucking
Yeah.
serious? You can't just, like, leave him tied up there."
Watching this back a second time, it's like, okay, so I think when Megan proposed that she wanted to get back at Luke and really, like, hyped it up and didn't just wanna hang out with Isabella. I think
Yeah,
Isabella saw an opportunity. We later learned that the pills were Isabella's idea. I think
yeah,
Isabella saw an opportunity. Luke said some stuff. She didn't expect him to stay. And then she's already, like, off the handle and, like, was, you know, kinda ready to let anything happen to Luke that, you know, she decided to shoot at him.
yeah,
And then I don't know what her intention was going like, if Luke was still tied up to the bed or, like, what would she have done? I don't know. But, I feel like she came there with malintent when she came
yeah,
back at night to the dock.
yeah, yeah, I do too. Um, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I do too. Um, yeah, I feel like, you know, she was going to like, it's like every time, like, I just, you know, I just keep getting like the whole thing just kept giving me Gerald's game flashbacks.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about Gerald's game too.
Oh
Scary. What if that's
gosh.
how it went for Luke?
Yikes. Oh my god,
Everyone
can you
just forgot
imagine?
about him. He never
Oh,
got out in the first place. He's just on muscle relaxants, drunk, tied to the bed, forgotten.
Isabella just, like, finds some starving dog and lets him in the cabin.
Yeah, the bears, the bears come.
Oh my god.
That was so funny. Yeah,
Yikes.
but when Isabella starts to say, like, "Megan, you let him off easy," it's like, I think she knows that she I mean, she shot at Luke. That's, like, pretty, like, drawing the line, you know? And I think
Yeah,
her best bet to get Megan back is for her to make Megan understand her perspective. So that's what she's like running with and gonna try to like borderline like I think like gaslight Megan
yeah,
into thinking that she's being too nice to Luke when really it's like I don't even think it's about being nice or not nice. I think like you have to think for yourself like it's surprising Ned didn't hear the shot fired literally next door to him or that anyone else that lives around there didn't. It doesn't like look good if you leave him tied up for like 2 days. Like don't do that, you know?
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like, I I'm surprised, like, I'm actually surprised that, that Luke didn't just start screaming, hoping that maybe Ned would hear it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised he could get himself untied from the bed though.
Yeah, yeah, that's
It's like
understandable,
of course he
fortunately.
did.
Yeah.
So then Megan and Isabella arrive at the cabin. Luke isn't there. They're really shocked by this, even though obviously, like, they shouldn't be. They don't understand how Luke could have gotten out. It's like, how great do you think you tied the rope, Megan? I mean,
Yeah.
Megan, we learn, calls the hospital to ask about Luke and see if maybe he ended up there. She also hacks into the 911 call center.
That that was pretty cool.
I'm like,
I got a
that's
kick out of that.
for me, I was like, okay, so the problem they have is with her making fake ID. Well, I guess, the police found out about that. They haven't found out she hacks into 911.
Yeah.
So funny. I'm
Yeah.
like, how do you hack into 911? Like, it's just cracking me up. Like, okay, it's just so convenient she's a hacker, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was pretty
Is
awesome.
Isabella takes the tape they recorded of Luke and says she's going to destroy it. And Megan really should have known better than to not bear witness to her burning the tape.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah, for sure. Um
She should have
Oh, bad mistake, Megan.
bad mistake. Also,
Big.
sorry for anyone listening or watching. I'm sick. So if you see me or sound me, yeah, if you sound me, if you hear me sounding a little hoarse and talking like a lunatic, that's why.
It you usually sound like a lunatic, so it's fine. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
nothing out of the ordinary, really. Just a runny
Yeah.
nose. Um, but yeah, Isabella is really upset that Megan is starting to forgive Luke. And Megan says she doesn't know how she's supposed to trust Isabella again after this.
Um, this was such a weird conversation. Like, I mean, Isabella lied to her about sleeping with Luke because she was manipulated by Luke into lying about that. That's not what Megan should be upset with her for. She should like Megan shouldn't be upset with Isabella or like feel betrayed by her. She Megan should be, like, freaked out by the fact that Isabella is enjoying is going a little too far with the whole getting Luke out of the picture thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would
Um,
be freaked out more that she was drinking, took pills, and decided to pick up a gun and shoot someone.
yeah.
That, like, just as a character thing, like, if I knew someone who did that, I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, like, I can't be friends with this person." What, you don't wanna go to a bar with that person, that's a very dangerous person.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but she can't trust her because she lied to her about sleeping with Luke. I don't know. I don't think that's the legitimate reason here.
No. No, it's like, okay, I mean, I guess it's like, well, Isabella, that's why I don't wanna be friends with you, but also it's like, I don't know, where's that layer of like, well, also this person is unsafe to be around point blank.
Yeah. Ugh,
Back at the Chambers household, Brent asks Steve what they're gonna do. And Steve says he's not going to let anything happen to Brent. Of course.
yeah, of course
At
not.
this point, when I watched the episode for the first time, I was like, oh, how did this? It's the same as like Luke being the one who made the sex tape. I was like, oh, how did I not see this coming? This seems so obvious to me. It's like, of course, like we've been saying for weeks that we think Brent had a hand in Luke's death. And then it's
Yeah.
so funny that I was never able to like connect the dots and be like, "Oh, well then have you ever thought about if Steve knows?" We just presume he didn't, but it makes sense that Brent's his golden child and he's covering up for his golden child.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually a little shocked. I don't know why I was shocked because it makes sense, but it just yeah, I was a little surprised.
Yeah.
Um,
I couldn't believe that I didn't predict it.
yeah. Yeah, I just like I think I was just shocked that he was willing he was willing to just live out this lie and just go after people so hard
Yeah.
when he knew the truth all this time, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is pretty crazy, especially to do to, like, a family that you care about, like, you're dating the mother, you're doing this
Yeah.
to, like, your children's childhood best friends
Yeah.
and girlfriend, like, it's pretty cruel. But, I mean, I guess this is Cruel Summer. It's really Steve Chambers' Cruel Summer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so Steve shows up at Megan's house. He says, Megan can tell him if Luke was mixed up in anything. And he's pretty much just trying to dig for information to Megan. But I mean, we know this is just keeping up appearances.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
just keeping up appearances. They talk about the Coast Guard Academy, and how he was upset about how that conversation went down. Steve suggests Luke ran away.
Yeah.
So then this is where our little runaway letter comes in. So Megan comes to Isabella and, tells her they need to get on the same page. Isabella is extremely calm right now. She is
Yeah, she's,
cool as
like,
a
sitting there
cucumber.
doing her nails, and she's like, you know,
Like it's any other day.
"Yeah, no biggie. It's all good."
Yeah. So Isabella suggests writing a note in Luke's handwriting saying that he's run away.
Yeah. Okay, now, and Megan says that she's been copying Luke's handwriting since they were 5. Why has she been copying his handwriting since
I was gonna say the same thing. I'm like, I don't know how to duplicate my best friend's handwriting.
I've never like I've never my sister has extremely neat handwriting. I've never tried to copy her handwriting.
No.
Like if I were to if someone said, "Kelly, I'll give you $100 if you can successfully copy someone's the handwriting of anybody you choose." I would probably choose my sister because she's got really neat handwriting. Um, and I still probably couldn't do it because I've never tried.
Yeah, I it's so funny you brought that up, Kelly, because I literally watched this episode twice, and both times I clocked that and was like, what a weird,
Yeah.
what a weird thing. I mean, I guess she's a hacker. She likes getting information. I could see Megan having like a forgery side also that kind of tracks with her, but very straight. Since you were 7, like, really? Why?
Yeah.
Goofy.
Yeah. That's so weird.
Yeah. So of course that letter was so okay, let's talk about that note. So then the tapes that Jack showed of just the house and no one shows up, I guess that was real.
Yeah, I guess so. So Megan wrote it then.
So Megan did write it. That's why her prints were on the note,
Yeah.
but it was Isabella's idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, and Megan just for whatever like it's so weird to me though that Megan like lied to the police about dropping Luke off at his house. Um, because I mean, you would assume that she knows that they have cameras. It seems
Right.
so weird to me.
Yeah. It's a weird lie. Also, it had me wondering, especially because we see Steve Chambers' car, and that's kind of like an important detail that comes up later this episode. I'm like, okay, well, wait. I know Megan is driving her mom's car. Isabella obviously doesn't have a car there, so that's like what the transportation situation is for those two. But like, how did Luke get to did Megan just drive Luke to the cabin? And then how did Isabella get to the cabin that night? You know what I mean? And then I'm like, well, how did Brent get there? And then how did Steve get there?
Yeah, I
You know
don't
what I mean?
know.
Because we see Steve's car. And I presume that Brent drove Steve's car.
Yeah.
So that's who they're seeing then. But then also, I don't know, something was just like funky.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing was really weird.
Yeah.
There's a lot that didn't make sense about that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there was something like I assume that I'm well, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that the well, yeah, the chambers would not willingly give up surveillance
Yeah.
from showing the camera from their driveway from that night. They they very well could have like they probably just handed over, faulty footage or whatever.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Um
yeah, I don't know.
The next scene we see is Megan hanging up Luke's missing person flyers around town. Girl Interrupted is what's playing in movie theaters. I love
Yeah.
that movie. I thought it was very funny that they referenced it. You know, just like unhinged girly vibes. Isabella really isn't like the Angelina Jolie character though. You know what I mean? Like Isabella doesn't
Yeah.
remind me of the girls in that character in that movie though.
Yeah. I noticed that too. It was um I appreciated that.
Love the
Um
reference though. I that's like when I was in high school, that's definitely one of my favorite movies. I'd say it still is.
yeah.
And then I also read the book and my college put it on as a play. And so I saw
Oh
that
wow.
too. That was really cool.
Oh cool. Nice.
So anyway, I think Megan is doing like grieving girlfriend really well to everyone she encounters.
Yeah.
Um she's very convincing. Luke is or excuse me, Megan is messaging Luke on AIM, no response. Um and then I think we have a little something prepared for this conversation as Isabella comes in.
Yeah. So the girls have a little spat here, and I thought it would be funny if we did an overly dramatic reading. So, Pamela is going to be Pamela is going to be playing Isabella, and I will be playing the role of Megan.
However dramatic do you want it, Kelly?
As overly dramatic as you want to be.
Okay. Okay, great.
I can't act worth shit. So I'm probably going to be thinking I'm being completely overly dramatic, and I'm going to be like putting people to sleep. So
Well, fabulous. We're gonna have some chaos acting.
awesome. Okay. All right. Take it away, Pamela.
I saw your light.
I can't sleep. I keep thinking about the pills.
What about them?
We shouldn't have added that other one. It was too much.
Hey, don't twist this. We did it together.
The pills were your idea. I can't believe I let you talk me into this.
We just need to focus on covering our tracks, not waste time thinking about who did what that night.
Oh, your famous put it in the rear view strategy.
What about it?
Just be real. It's an excuse for you to not take responsibility for anything ever.
None of this would have ever happened if Luke wasn't such an asshole, just like the rest of his family.
No, he's not like them.
He's exactly like them. Megan, you're just too blind to see it.
Right, because you're such an expert in relationships, even though you never seem to have one.
Before I came here, you lived this sad, boring life, chained to your computer and your stupid little rules. I pushed you out of your comfort zone. I showed you a whole new world.
You pushed me past my breaking point, and now I might be an accessory to murder thanks to you.
You ungrateful little bitch. You're the most selfish person I've ever met. I came up with that plan to help you because you wanted to get back at Luke, not me.
No, you did this because you're addicted to drama. And I should have just talked to him. I should have never brought you into this. He would still be here.
Yeah, treating you like garbage.
He was right. You're only happy when I'm miserable. Well, congratulations. You got what you wanted. I wish I never met you. Ugh.
What a fight.
Sorry, I had to add the little at the end. I don't
I
know
love
why.
it.
Oh my god.
What a
Yeah, I
fight.
get that's I that's the yeah, that's the first time we've seen Isabella go off on Megan.
Yeah, so funny. She pops off on her a couple times like that this episode, and it's
Yeah.
it's like kind of satisfying, not gonna lie.
Yeah. I well, you know, it's um I mean, as much as this episode like completely destroyed my Isabella apologist status. I was like I really just wanted to slap Megan when she was like, "I'm thinking about the pills. That third one was too much." I'm like, "Oh my god." So okay, so now you're just gonna put it all on Isabella. Like you weren't involved at all.
Yeah, I'm like, whose idea was it to tie him up to the bed, girl? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
also, you're really agonizing over that one last pill, which I feel like that is a very human thing to do is to be like, oh, I did all X, Y, and Z wrong. But, this little tiny detail, like, if I hadn't done X, the rest of what I did would have been totally fine. When really it's like, no, I mean, you made a mistake the whole time through and through, and it continued to be a mistake. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like, yeah, they probably shouldn't have added the extra pill. Do I also think that was Isabella is some of that Isabella malintent. Um,
Yeah.
but would it really have made that much of a difference? Probably not.
No. No, I mean, he was drinking,
Yeah.
like he was fucked up either way.
Yeah, and when you go through really what happened, which I mean, we're about to leading to his death, he was drinking, he took muscle relaxants, point blank, he still did, whether it was 2 pills or 3. Then he hits his head and falls in the water, and someone holds his head underwater.
Yeah.
But, Megan doesn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So now we're back on we go back to Luke being alive. Um Brent has just arrived to help Luke. Um Luke tells Brent he got caught by Megan and Isabella in a bunch of lies, and he also I mean, this was such a rewarding conversation for
Oh.
Luke's character. Of all the things, I did feel like they did a good job of getting the closure I wanted between Luke and Brent.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
All these things that go completely unsaid in the family are now finally being said, so I feel like the episode did do a good job of that. I just wish that this wasn't the last episode. This could
I
have been the
know.
second to last, and they're wrapping up all the Chambers, internal drama.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of what Luke says to Brent in that scene, I think will well, I mean, a lot of it has an effect on him in the immediate timeline, but I think it's gonna have a big effect on him in the future too.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I have a lot of hope I have a lot of hope for Brent in the future.
I do too, when he's
Yeah.
out of jail.
Yeah.
So Luke says he thought he wasn't like Brent, but he thinks he is more like him than he thought. He admits he grabbed one of Brent's, or he thought he grabbed one of Brent's sex tapes to play at the party. Makes way more sense.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
see that part I didn't see coming either. At that point, like when I feel like that helps redeem Luke and his relationship with Megan a little bit too.
definitely. Yeah, I mean, I when I because I was floored. why is my oh my god, my stupid camera. Um, when, yeah, I mean, when I found out that he was, when I found out that it was him that played that tape, I was like, What the hell, man?" Like, he really just doesn't give a shit about Megan.
Yeah.
So I was glad to find out that it was an accident. Guys, I'm sorry. If you're watching this,
Kelly's camera just zoomed out like crazy.
I'm really, really sorry. I don't know what's going on. It just like went into a really weird mode. I'm really sorry. Like I don't yeah. Okay.
Um, yeah, it's so damn, I just forgot what I was about to say.
Um we were talking about Brent, right? And
Oh,
Luke.
yes.
Oh, Luke in the
I'm
tape.
Luke and the tape. I feel like that decision for them to omit that, Luke really intended to expose Brent, I feel like that was very intentionally left to the finale so that they could really work up our sympathy for the girls and get
Yeah.
us to be anti Luke for the previous two episodes.
Yeah, yeah, probably. Yeah, that makes
But
sense.
I appreciated receiving that information because that makes way more sense um for like Luke's character and like his intentions, and that just like clicked for me. I was like, "Oh, okay. All right. Got it. Got it." Um the rest of the conversation continues. Really, really rough words, Brent calls Luke a loser. Um and basically says like even when he wants to tank, he can't do that right. Luke said he's done lying about their mother's car accident. Steve, I guess, has been claiming that their mother was distracted by Luke when she was driving, but the truth is that she was drunk. And this gets Brent like really enraged.
I mean, he was a kid. I like I can't believe that the family was just blaming her death on a kid. He was like,
I thought I misunderstood it, and that Luke had been driving because the mother was drunk. And then when I was going through it all, I was like, and timeline-wise, like of his age and everything, that doesn't make a lick of sense. So I guess it's
yeah,
that what, like she's driving and then she turns back to do something for Luke. But like, why would anyone blame him for that? He was probably like 7 years old.
yeah, he was like 7 or 8. He was a kid. Like, Jesus Christ.
Just wild. And also like it's so interesting that Brent gets like enraged when Luke brings up what the real truth is because it's like it just shows that it's kind of like the same as Steve's reaction where it's like they want to believe this lie and they'd really prefer to have like a squeakier clean version of the truth than what really happened.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um
definitely.
So once Brink gets mad, he pushes Luke. He says it's Luke's fault that their mom died. And Luke hits his head on the metal handrail and he falls in the water and doesn't emerge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That was
oh, go ahead.
loud too.
Yeah, it's bad. Like I played it back. It's not good. And he hits his head like right here.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it was
you
loud.
know, Brent thinks he's joking, which is such a shame because he really wasted some crucial seconds or a minute, I'd say. But eventually he does jump in to find him. Again, I'm really surprised that he can't find the body.
Yeah. Yeah, same. Like, um, I don't know how I mean, unless he got, like, caught on something under the dock? Like, I don't I don't know
Where could
how
he
that
have gone?
happened.
Where could he have
No
like,
idea.
how far down could he have possibly gotten? And also, like, you mean to tell me that Brent can't, like, go a little deeper? It felt like he was driving very superficially. It's like, I don't know, I'd be able to get, like, 5 feet. At 5 feet, surely you could or, like, come back with a flashlight or, like, I don't know, call I would my if someone was, like, potentially drowning, I wouldn't just give up, go home, cry, and tell daddy hours later. I think I would call the cops. Like, I'd call 911, I'd do something, I'd say, "Oh, he just accidentally hit his head and fell in the water."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know why, like, he wouldn't he didn't have to tell anybody that, like, he pushed him, you know? Like,
No.
it's I don't understand why that was such a it was really irresponsible. Um, but he, it was extremely irresponsible. But he did jump in after him in January. So he at least tried. Um, but it was, but yeah, the whole thing was just really weird the way it was handled. It was very strange. Um, but yeah, um, and yeah, they just assume he's dead.
They assume he's dead. And then the very last thing, of course, that we see in this timeline is that Isabella comes back to the dock. Conveniently, she walks over and Luke's body is washed up. And he's in rough shape. He's totally out of it, but he is lifting his head up and he's alive. And she puts her foot on the back of his head and pushes his face under like the smallest little puddle of water. And that's enough for him to not have oxygen and drown. And then she pushes his body back in the water.
God, I just with when this happened, I mean, I'm not kidding you. I sat there just with my hand over my mouth, stare like the screen went blank. And I was sitting there with my mouth hanging open, my hand over my mouth, just staring at a blank screen for like 3 minutes. Like just not moving. I was just in so much shock. Like,
Yeah, I was really surprised when they had the shot of Megan like looking through the camera. I really thought I was going to find out that Luke was alive. I didn't think I was going to find out that Isabella was the real murderer. I really thought that the twist was going to be that Luke was actually alive. And I really stuck with that throughout this whole episode. I really felt like I was going to find out Luke was alive.
well, when they showed him washing up on shore, for a second, I really thought that Isabella was going to help him.
Yeah. I thought she was going to be like, "Hey, get out of here. I won't tell
Yeah.
anyone I saw you. Like, go start your life."
Yeah.
Kind of like the advice she echoed last episode to him in those flashbacks where she's like, "You need to start your own journey." I thought it would be something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Like, I really thought that that was it. Like, she was going to, like, he was still alive and Isabella was going to know where he was.
Yeah. I
Um,
thought the twist was that the whole time she knew he was alive. But
yeah.
it's so much more like that. I mean, that's like the nice ending. It's like, yeah, I'd like to think like Luke is alive and Isabella helped him, and it's, oh, what a shame she's keeping this secret from Megan, but like he's okay. But of course it's that, she drowned. And then him drowning in that little puddle, like my thought also was like, it's like we thought he died from hitting his head and he fell in a lake. It's like it's so much worse that he died like and it was just this little tiny puddle of water and he was
Yeah.
just too weak to lift up his head and really fight. Like it's just so much more pathetic.
Yeah.
Um and it was really sad.
Oh God. Like oh. Um yeah, it really made me feel like she killed Lisa. Um like they got into a fight and Lisa like maybe Lisa caused friction between her and Trevor or whatever. And maybe um and yeah, and maybe she just and like Isabella said that Lisa had been drinking um and like I have a feeling like maybe Lisa started like started drowning on her own or something and Isabella just didn't help her.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, that's so yeah, I'm sure that's probably what happened. I'm sure she was responsible for Lisa's death. I'm just so bummed because I wanted her to be just like, the misunderstood person and
Yeah.
but nope. They did it to us again. They geneted us.
Yep. You know what they
I
say, fool me once, fool me twice. They're not going to fool me this third time. They're not going
no.
to pull it past me next season.
No, they will because we're gonna be like, okay, well, yeah, we know that this one's gonna be the bad one, and then they're gonna flip it on us.
It's so frustrating too because it's like a hiding in plain sight type thing. Where like from the get-go, remember I mean that first line Megan says in the pilot that's like this never would have happened if she came to town. I mean, it was all like right there. It's all like very obvious and then it's like, "Oh, surprise. We thought she was, you know, kind of better than she was, but I mean, it's been a series of red flags with Isabella that I thought she was a red herring. Apparently not.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah, and we acknowledge the fact that her friendship with Megan didn't seem normal or healthy. It seemed a little possessive, but she still seemed to like have such genuine caring and concern for her that it's like you wanted to believe that she was a good person.
Yeah.
But oh god.
And some of
Um
what she says to Megan has validity.
yeah.
Like, some of what she says to Megan does have validity other than, I mean, that they're going easy on Luke. That I disagree with, but, like, more like the friendship stuff and, like, this conversation they have in, the 2000s timeline that we'll get to where, she talks about seeing the friendship in a positive light. Like, I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's, like, necessarily, like, someone that's, like, demented or, someone who murders someone. Like, I don't think that's even like a bad way to necessarily have looked at the friendship.
Yeah. Yeah. Um yeah, man. Just so disappointed.
There was so much
um
unanswered with Trevor and Lisa that I'm like, really? Like, that's all Lisa was for?
yeah.
Like, that whole storyline and like Trevor and like whatever was happening between us, like, they're not going to tell us what that was or like we're not going to get to see it even in a flashback. As this episode was playing out and I was seeing how much time we're spending with Brent and Steve, I was like, oh man, like I would check like how much time was left in the episode and then I was like, there's no way they're going to get to the Lisa stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a bummer. I I would love for them to just follow up on some of this stuff eventually someday,
I
but
hope they do. I hope they do. You
that would be
know,
cool.
the Kate Wallace book, like, good to know she wrote a book. I don't think we knew that by the finale, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no. No, I don't think so.
So, I mean, that's cool to see that, you know, she's doing something to help heal herself. I like appreciated learning that about her. So I hope that either those Easter eggs will continue, or maybe eventually we'll have like a character come into a later season and like we can hear how people are doing or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool. Um, so going into the other timeline, the later timeline, um, we see the first thing that we see is Steve visiting at the sheriff's office, visiting Jack, asking why he hasn't charged Megan or Isabella yet. Um, Jack tells him that they're still working on things and they just got some footage from the road leading to the cabin from that night that should
Yeah.
be helpful. Um, yeah. Uh-oh. Not good news for Steve.
Yeah. Steve does not like that.
Yeah. um, so Brent then stops by to see Megan. Um, and I love this scene so much. Such great acting from Brandon De La Garza. Um, this is where we see the out of the basement, the Kate Wallace story. It's laying on the
Mhm.
table in Megan's house. Brent stops by to see Megan. He says he just needed to see a normal person, and she's like, "Well, tell me when you find one." um, he tells her, or she tells him that or well, he says that he says, "I saw Debbie at the office. She looks a lot better." Megan says she's in remission, so I guess she had cancer. Um, and she tells Brent that Jack thinks that Megan and Isabella colluded and killed Luke together. And she tells him that her lawyer quit because she ran out of money. Um, and he's just like the whole time he's just very like restrained and sympathetic and subdued, and he just kind of seems like he just seems kind of like a hurt puppy dog, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
He's also all dressed up.
yeah,
He's more
yeah,
dressed up than we've seen him because I think, later we're gonna see he's working at his dad's office.
yeah, yeah.
Also,
Um,
that first scene when Steve comes into the police station, asks Jack why they haven't pressed charges, seeing that after having, like, learned everything we learn about Steve and his involvement in Luke's death, I was so much more bothered by that conversation and how many times he's bugged the living daylights out of Jack to arrest somebody when, it's and that's
yes.
all just been for Brent, but it seeing that one more time after what we've learned was tough.
Yep, yep. And the fact that he had an investigator following Megan around. Um, oh, okay. By the way, this is totally off topic, but I'm only bringing this up because my my ADHD is making me bring it up now because I will totally forget about it forever if I don't bring it up now. Um, I rewatched the first episode yesterday,
Uh-huh.
and so there was no Tim. Eric was there. There was no Tim, but there was a Freddie.
Wait, where?
There was a kid named Freddie that was part of the group.
Oh.
Um, and I think by episode 2, Freddie was gone and Tim was there. Isn't that weird?
Oh,
Like, I don't know what
interesting.
happened to Freddie. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, they ditched
Um,
Freddie for Tim.
weird.
Yeah. Sorry, I know that was totally off topic, but I just remembered that for some reason. It popped in my head, and I needed to bring that up, or
Oh, I
I'd
was
forget it
just
quickly.
about to say, so speaking of the pilot, like, so Megan doing that like handoff with a guy, that was just one of her hacking jobs, I guess. Like, nothing really figured out with what that was.
Yeah. 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 Um, yeah, it was just, yeah. I mean, it was I guess it was just to, like, kinda, go hand in hand and, like, kind of show that that's what she had been doing with her, with her time, and I don't know.
And also,
Um,
I forgot to mention, when we watched it in the earlier storyline, we see Jeff for the very last time, and I don't know, like, for to say, like, the role that Jeff has played and the importance with Megan and, like, you know, messing up, the friendship with Luke and Jeff, etcetera, that last conversation, like, really wasn't much to say, and we literally never get answers about his camera equipment.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's really weird. Still a mystery. Um, but, yeah, so we finally figured out that, where Isabella has been staying, 'cause we thought it was at we thought it was Jack's house, but apparently it's like a hotel that
Yeah,
she's been
what?
staying at.
Which I was surprised by that just because of dialogue, like, she said she was staying at Parker's, but
Yeah.
okay. And so then her hotel door was the one that was open that Parker was listening to? Listening from the
Yeah.
outside of? You know what I mean? That's weird.
Yeah, I know. It's really strange. Um, but yeah, it's, Megan and Isabella go back to, um go back to the hotel, and Megan says it was a great strategy with them both accusing the other, um, which goes back to, I think it was the episode before, where they're both saying that, they can prove that, the other killed Luke. Um, and, by them accusing the other, the sheriff's hands were tied. And, Isabella says that she still hasn't gotten her passport back, and she won't once they see the footage of them leaving the cabin. Um, so Megan hacks into the police files to find the footage from that night. Um, she and while they're watching the footage, she and Isabella notice Steve's car approaching.
Mhm.
Um, they bust into Steve's office to confront him over this. Um, he tells them that he doesn't need to explain anything to them, but since they're lodging accusations, his investigator had a long conversation with Trevor Cole, and it seems that Isabella's friends have a habit of dying.
Mhm.
So
Which
it
I
and
when that happened, I was like, "Damn, that's all we get for Trevor?
yeah,
Okay."
yeah, exactly. But I mean, Isabella practically shits herself.
Yeah.
Um, and they get back in the car, and they're pretty rattled by all this. And Steve insisted he was home all night. Um, and Isabella convinces Megan that they need to hold off on talking to the sheriff until they're sure that it was Steve. Um,
They don't
they
ever consider it was Brent?
Yeah, I know.
Like, I'm like, it
Um,
never crosses your mind, like, "Huh, who's the other person that could have been driving Steve's car? Hmm."
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, they just, they know that there's footage of them, and they don't want it to blow up in their faces. Um and Isabella kind of like uses this time to uses this moment to kind of try to like sweet talk Megan a little bit, and she's like, the last few days have kind of felt like old times, and she she really would love a do-over, and she never got that with Lisa. And Megan pretty much laughs in her face.
Yeah.
um and she's like, this is desperation, it's not friendship. um and Isabella just pretty much storms out of the car and says she'll get herself home.
Yeah, she says to Megan she wouldn't know loyalty if it bit her in the ass.
Yeah. Um, and that was apparently Isabella's last straw.
Yeah.
um, because right after that, um, first, before we realize that that was Isabella's last straw, we see Brent freaking out in in Steve's office, and I have to I'm sorry, like, okay, I'm I keep praising uh Braden De La Garza's acting in this episode, but I have to I just there was something I was cracking up at here when he was like, okay, so Brent's freaking the fuck out. He's convinced he's going to
Mhm.
jail, and my camera's freaking out again too. Um,
Yes.
I need to keep my hand down. That's why it's freaking out. Um, so he's convinced he's going to jail, and Steve's telling him like he needs to get his shit together. Um, and he slaps him, and he makes this sound. And the sound that he makes, I swear to God, I all I could think of when I heard it was the 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 song Kiss by Prince.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's like I need to like I can't play it cuz we'll get demonetized, but I I'll have to like play it back to back for you later.
I okay, I'm gonna take Steve slapping Brent as a successful theory on my end that Steve physically hurts his children.
Okay. Okay.
Because we've seen him lay hands on his kids now like 3 separate times.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Um it actually was nice to see it actually was nice to see Brent freaking out this episode and not
Yeah.
being, as opposed to being so cocky.
Oh yeah, for
Um
sure, for sure.
but Steve tells Brent no Chambers is going to jail on his watch. Um but so we see Megan at home, and she's listening to the radio and hears that new evidence has been discovered in Luke's case, and an arrest may be imminent.
Mhm.
So she flies out of there, gets in her car, and heads over to Isabella's hotel.
Yeah, she
Only
also reads an article about his death.
Yeah.
Um, and, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. Um, and she goes to her room, goes to her hotel room, only to find um one of the housekeepers making up the bed and saying that she checked out a few moments ago.
Yep.
Um And Megan's Megan heads home and gets pulled over by Jack on the way, uh, who says that a tape just came into his possession and he needs her to follow him back to the station to answer some questions about it. Um, and this was something that I had predicted last week. Um, we see the tape, and it's basically just we see Megan holding the gun, and um, and Luke screaming, "You shot me, you crazy bitch!" Um,
Which
and
how is that
Isabella.
how is that grounds for arresting Megan for his murder? He didn't die
It's
of a
not.
gunshot.
It's not. It's really not.
Did you
Um,
notice something too in the movie theater sign when Megan got arrested?
no.
So I zoomed in. The sign says on the first line, it says held over. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to mean. And then I'm pretty sure that the second line says Toy Story 2, which I remember when that came out and I was a little kid. I thought that was kind of like interesting because they picked Girl Interrupted as like the first movie. And then Toy Story 2, I was like, yeah, I remember that being like coming out in the 2000. Because I was in kindergarten, I had Toy Story 2 like light up shoes. But I was like, "Oh, what an interesting choice." Like they could have picked a scary movie, they could have picked like a thriller. It made me think of what I said about Isabella last week, and I'm curious if anyone like if this was intended with what I'm about to say. Um Isabella kind of reminded me of like the song like When She Loved Me, which is like a montage in Toy Story 2 about kind of like Jessie, being this toy that's like picked up and played with and loved, and then she's not loved and she ends up being like discarded. And it reminds me a lot of Isabella. And like
Oh,
her
wow.
friendship with Megan. And so I was like, oh, I wonder if that was I happened to mention like thinking of that song when I think of like Isabella's relationship. So I was like, oh, I wonder if that was intentional.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you talking about that. That's yeah, good catch. I think that's a good possibility. I mean, if you were thinking that, then, then there's a good chance that that's what they had in mind too.
Or they listened to
Um
that episode and they said, quick, we got to CGI this in. And they spent $10,000 adding it to the background, knowing that I would zoom in and look.
exactly. Exactly. Um but whoa.
Sorry.
But
So
yeah, I
sorry.
mean, no, you're fine. Um, but yeah, it's like so Jack arrests her, um, and charges her with Luke's murder. Like
Doesn't make a lick of sense.
it really doesn't, especially when the cause of death was drowning. Um, like the gunshot was accidental. Um, I mean, they weren't on the water. She didn't shoot him on the water, you
No, and
know?
also it didn't even hit him. It didn't even cause, like, sustained damage. It's like a bullet grazed his ear. If anything, she's
Yeah.
guilty of firing a gun that's, like, not hers, you know? It's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, yeah, the whole thing was pretty weird. Um, so the Steve and Brent are at home, and Steve gets the call that Megan was charged with Luke's murder. And he's totally cool with her taking the fall for it.
Yeah.
Um, Brent is freaking out about it. Um, And Steve tells him to grow up. Um, Brent tells him, Megan's like family, and Steve says she's not a Chambers,
Yep.
and
What about Debbie? Who
yeah,
cares?
yeah. Um, Steve tells him to grow up and that a little gratitude wouldn't kill him. Um, and Brent then confronts him about his mom's car accident. Um, about asks if she had been drinking, and he says he covered it up because he didn't want her remembered that way, and that he always protects his family. Um, which like which is fine, whatever. I get it, but like, why are you gonna let your older son like just continue to bully your younger son over, like, you know blaming him for distracting distracting her and causing the accident.
I felt like that comment that Brent made where he said that it's Luke's fault. I feel like the story that they told people is that she took her eyes off the road to look at Luke. I don't think that other people or even Brent per se are like regularly saying like, well, it was Luke's fault. It's like I
Right.
think that in the heat of the moment in that like argument they were having on the dock, that Brent accused Luke of like being the person who's at fault for their mother's death.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it could actually be realistic to blame him for it, fully, especially as a child.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um,
Um Yeah, just wild.
yeah. Um, so Brent goes to see Megan at the station. Um, he tells her that Jack told him he could have 5 minutes, and he tells
Highly
her that,
unorthodox. I was
yeah,
like, sorry to interrupt. I was just like,
yeah,
when I
no,
watched this scene, I was like, do you think that Brent came in the office and was like, hey, I'm confessing to my brother's murder. But first, could you just let me talk to Megan? Like, what do you or I'm like, they just really like, again, it's like the Chambers men, they got the law enforcement wrapped around their finger. They can just waltz in and talk to Megan. And like maybe Jack was hearing that for the first time. Maybe he
I
wasn't. I'm really not sure.
I think he was. And I think what happened is that, um, I think Jack, I think Jack knows enough to know that, like, if Brent comes in and tells him, and it leads him to think that, like, look, I have something you need to hear, um, that lets Megan off the hook. Um, but I need you to let me talk to her, and you can listen in. I think he would, I think he would be all over that.
Yeah, that's true. Also, I look
Um,
back on that previous episode that had a flashback of Brent holding Luke underwater, and it's like, oh man,
yeah,
foreshadowing.
yeah, yeah, totally. Um, but yeah, so yeah, he goes to see Megan, and he tells her that Luke had paged him from the dock that night. Um, he explains what happened. They started fighting, and he fell into the water and couldn't find him. Um, we see the flashback. Um, Megan, Megan says it was an accident, and but Brent is basically just accepting it as his fault. Um, and he tells her that Steve tried to cover it up and was willing to let her take the blame. Um, and he also admits to putting the money in the cabin.
Yep, which you
Um,
were right about.
yeah. Um, we then see that Jack is listening to all of this.
Yeah.
Um, she asks why he's telling her all of this now, and he says that he's not going to let her take the fall for this. Luke really loved her, and he's so sorry for everything. And he opens the door, and Jack arrests him.
Mhm.
Um, so he's 18, he's an adult. Um, I don't know what charges he's facing exactly. I mean, um, probably not as many as Steve, but he planted evidence. Um, I don't know, like, I don't know. I still think the whole thing with Luke was accidental, but he didn't report it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that was more out of stupidity and just being scared, but um, that doesn't matter. It's still like the law doesn't care about that.
Exactly.
um, so yeah. Don't know what what kind of stuff he's going to be looking at, but I think his dad is in a whole lot more trouble than he is.
Mhm.
Um, and we then see Steve sitting at home, with all the lights off. He's got his phone off the hook, and the uh, we see the squad cars just swarm his house, and it was so satisfying.
What do you think, do you think Brent told him what he was gonna do? Like, do you think he just knew when Brent left the house and didn't come back for that many hours, like, they're both in big trouble? Like, how do you think it went down that we didn't see?
I don't, I don't know. I really don't know. Like
Yeah.
I don't I don't yeah, I don't know. 'Cause he knew something was happening. Um I mean, he was just he was just sitting there in the dark with the phone off the hook.
Drinking.
Yeah. Um so I'm surprised Brent would have told him anything.
Yeah, I feel like Brent probably didn't, and when that conversation we did see is what transpired, and then Brent doesn't come back for, like, 8 hours, like, I feel like Steve had a gut feeling and knew.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Or or maybe or Debbie was back at work. I mean, maybe Debbie said something.
Maybe.
I I I don't know. Like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I my
You're
daughter
getting
just filled me in on."
arrested.
Yeah, my daughter just filled me in on everything. Fuck you. Here's a punch in the face, and hope I never see you again.
Literally. So funny. Debbie gives Steve a heads up, but, like, can't be bothered to help her own daughter.
Oh man. Um But oh god. Um so Megan's back at home on her computer when she gets a message from Ned that a friend of his in Palo Alto is looking for a coder and the job would start right away. So that's kind of exciting.
Yeah. Oh, wait, sorry, Kelly. Can I back it up just a little bit?
Yeah.
She's reading an article labeled Chambers Family Scandal, Wealth,
Yes.
Tragedy, Murder, Cover Up. I read the article. It was
I
very
did
funny,
too.
because the mom's name, she's mostly referred to as Mrs. Chambers until like the last line. I think they use whatever her real like first name is. But as I was reading it, I'm like, did they just like not give her a first name? And like whoever typed this up was like Mrs. Chamber. The production designer, like the set PA is like, yeah, yeah, Mrs. Chambers, whatever, Mrs. Chambers. Um that was funny. And then one of the side articles being displayed says a Chatham High School grad is bound for the NFL draft. I
Huh.
just I just thought that was very funny. That like that's the other article.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
like, what? This someone from Chatham is about to be a professional football player.
Well, that's pretty cool.
This is funny.
Um, but no, I thought the article was hilarious because it
Yeah.
was so gossipy. It was like, I mean, talking about the accident and like what other secrets are they hiding?
Yeah.
Like, no, there would not be an article. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. It was not written like journalistically.
No, 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 not at all. Oh god. But it was, yeah, it was very funny though.
Yeah, for sure. Super
Very, very
funny.
funny. Um, but yeah, so she's so Megan's gonna get her first coding job. So so that's pretty exciting. And she'll hopefully make lots of money for a couple of years until the dot-com bust happens in a
Yeah.
year
I
and she's out of a job.
I felt I felt like even though obviously we don't know what's in store for Megan other than the dot-com bubble burst, it was encouraging. Like I keep thinking about that conversation that Ned has with her where he's like, "Well, you don't have to go to college to be a coder." Like, and that's kind of like that's her the person she looks up to like essentially the most. Ned, he didn't go that way, and like getting her this job, I'm like, oh, like that makes me feel better that like you know Megan's future isn't completely ruined by
Yeah.
all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm glad she's got a future ahead of her. Hopefully she'll focus on that and not spend too much time plotting revenge.
Yeah.
um but we then see Isabella on what I think is um hang on a second. Okay. No, never mind. Yeah, yeah, so we see Isabella on a flight to
Ibiza.
Ibiza, and she is she's alone by herself, and there is a woman sitting next to her. She's in first class, of course. There's a woman sitting next to her, very friendly young lady, starts chatting her up, and she she asks if she's coming or if she's coming home or going on vacation, and she starts
Escaping.
Yeah. And she starts telling her about her best friend Megan and how perfect she is and you know, and she can't join her right away because she's got school and stuff, but um very talking about her very much like she talked about Lisa.
Mhm.
Um and so she this woman, um Michelle was her name, right?
Yes.
Um Michelle says it's her first time going there, and she says that she's going to need a partner in crime, and she would love to be her party host. And Michelle seems to think that that's a great idea. So
Yeah.
R.I.P. R.I.P. Michelle.
R.I.P. Michelle. She's dressed like someone I think who would be friends with Isabella. Like Isabella's fashion beginning of the 1999 summer timeline. That
Yeah,
girl seems like she would be friends with Michelle.
yeah, yeah. Um. Oh man, poor girl doesn't know what she's in for.
No.
but yeah, Isabella introduces herself as Lisa.
Mhm.
Um, and
When I watched that the first time, and of course, the order of the flashbacks, immediately after we see this scene, that's when it's revealed that Isabella is the one who killed Luke. Um when that scene first ended and she says her name is Lisa, I was so genuinely baffled by it, Kelly. I was like, wait, why is she changing her identity now? And I was like, oh, I don't know. She's so weird. Like maybe she's just a little pathological. What was your reaction?
um, I my like my reaction was my reaction was why isn't she Patty Highsmith?
Yeah.
If anything, like she's got a Patty Highsmith ID.
But you know what? It keeps in theme of Cruel Summer of girls taking other girls' identities.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. um, but so we yeah, and but yeah, it would have been great if she had actually helped Luke, if she had if she had saved him and then helped him get out of town and he could live as Rod, whatever his
Yeah.
name was, and then, in there could be a follow-up season and Rod could reunite with Liz George and they run into they take a trip to Ibiza and run into Patty Highsmith there.
Yeah.
um but so anyway, we see Megan standing at the dock looking at hers and Luke's initials and saying goodbye. Um as she's leaving, she notices a reflection in the trees. She gets a little closer and she sees a camera that she didn't know was there. Um, she gets home and examines the footage, and that's where she sees the what happened what with Luke's body washing ashore. Um, I don't even
I
know
don't
how he managed to survive.
I don't know either, but you know what I don't know even more is how that camera went completely unnoticed to the next door neighbors that definitely share that dock with Ned. Like
Yeah.
property line thing right there. One, like, you mean to tell me, like, no one in the Chambers family has ever noticed that camera that has been there for over like years at this point? Two, you mean to tell me Jack didn't find that camera? I mean, if he did, the case would have been solved. Like, But it's just, it's like, yes, I understand. How else is Megan going to learn that information if only Isabella and Luke were there? I understand. I just think that it's annoying because I think the police would have found that camera really easy. I think other people would have known. I think if they would have looked through all the files of Ned's recording footage, that would have been there as well.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah, I know. Um, it's there's a lot of things that don't totally add up. Um, it's I almost feel like I don't know. It almost seems like something. Oh, cutie pie. Um, it almost seems like something happened during this season, maybe it was supposed to be longer and got cut short, or because the thing is, like, one thing that I've said many times about the show and that I still believe is this is such a smart show. Like, the narrative that they're telling, and like just that there's so many just really intelligent things about the show.
Yeah.
But I mean that are like way smarter than that. I mean, that surpass other shows so much. But the there was a lot of messiness. I mean,
Yeah.
like, stuff didn't get answered, and maybe it wasn't supposed to be like important enough to be answered, but it seemed like it was.
They really
Um,
set it up, and I mean, like, we're very engaged with this show, obviously, but, like,
yeah,
if I became hyper focused on it, it's because you drew attention to it, you know what I mean? I didn't go
right.
anywhere that they weren't leading me already, except maybe the polar bear, but look, they put in that extra shot in ADR, like, that seemed like extra work. I don't know. Why'd they
Yeah.
do it?
The the fireworks, that was such a deliberate thing. That was such
Yeah.
a deliberate shot, you know? Like, I don't understand. Like, I just it feels like something went wrong somewhere almost. That,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I'm confused. Um, but I still, like, it was messy, stuff wasn't wrapped up, stuff wasn't explained. But aside from that, um aside from that, it's still just really smart storytelling.
Yeah.
Um that you don't really see that level of intelligence in storytelling very often.
Yeah, and
Um
I think Cruel Summer is a really stepped up teen drama.
yeah. Yeah, for sure.
When we get that shot of, like, it's the outside of the camera and then it's, like, going through the cord, I was really like, okay, this is sorry, viewers for my cat's beauty.
I love
Um
it.
She has lots of thoughts on Cruel Summer as well, as you can tell. Um, I really thought we were going to go through the camera and find out that Luke is watching the security cameras and he's, like, hiding somewhere in Ned's house this whole time. and that Ned
Oh my
has like stored him
god.
away. And I thought for sure it was gonna be like him watching Megan being like, I'll be reunited with you one day, Megan. Like that's what I was really convinced slash hoping for.
Oh man.
That
Wow.
would have been great.
That would have been cool. That would have been kind of cool. Um, but oh man, the look on Megan's face as she was watching that footage. I mean, it was just like I'm going to I'm going to hunt her down and avenge Luke's death.
Yeah, it's so I was so frustrated we don't even get to see her like take that to Jack.
Yeah. Yeah,
We
I
don't
know.
get to see like Brent get even slightly off the hook. We don't get to see them suddenly like on a manhunt for Isabella, or if that's even possible because now she's fled the country. So is she, you know, are they not going to go for her, or are they going to build a case against her because now she's kind of like a serial murderer?
Yeah.
Peach
Yeah,
agrees.
definitely. Um yeah. Oh man. Um I and and poor Michelle's probably gonna end up dead now.
Oh, poor girl.
Yeah. Or somebody that Michelle cares about. I don't know. um but yeah, I wonder if I wonder if that will like if that will let Brent off at all. If that tape will let Brent off at all.
I think a
Um
little.
yeah. Um I I hope it doesn't have much an effect on Steve because like it doesn't really affect any of what Steve did.
I agree. I don't think it should affect anything Steve did because Steve did it all for Brent, regardless of how Luke died. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Um yeah, I would love to yeah, I'd love to see like what Chatham is like in the year 2023 without, without Steve Chambers in control.
Yeah. I wonder if Cruel Summer ever plans on going back to some of these characters because I know there's just I feel like been a huge outcry when season 2 started that it wasn't with Janelle and Kate. Or excuse me, not Janelle, Jeanette and Kate. Um but of course that was never the plan for this show. It was always supposed to be an anthology. But the way the second one ended, it's like, I really want to hope that it's not just like, oh, these are leftover storylines that went unanswered and it is what it is and now we're done. Like I hope that maybe this was written the way it was because they plan on returning to these characters in some way. It was such a little treat to get Kate Wallace's book,
Yeah.
because I don't know, like I especially her, I think about her character and I'm just like, I hope that girl's okay. And then seeing the book, I was like, "Aw, like, I'm glad she's telling her story."
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Um I the one scene that just like always that I always think about from season 1 is where she is like when she was laying in the bathtub with her clothes on and she was like all I kept thinking about was how much I wanted to take a bath and wear my favorite sweater and and something else. And she's like, so I just decided to do it all at once.
Yeah.
It's like, um But um yeah, I can't wait to cover season 1. Um which we will be doing soon.
Yes.
Um, we've got one more episode of season 2 to get through, and that's our after show. Well, by the time you guys get this, by the time this one comes out, we're done. So I guess that's kind of irrelevant. But so what we're gonna do next after this is we are going to cover we're gonna finally do a proper episode um on the season 2 Yellow Jackets finale. Because it was we just did like a micro a micro episode. So I'm going to yeah, we're gonna do a full coverage episode on that. And then after we do that, we're gonna dive into Cruel Summer season 1. So you can if you've already watched it, you can join us. We've already watched it. If you've never watched it, like you could binge it ahead of time, you can watch it with us week to week. But if you could leave a comment and let us know if you've already watched it or if you plan to watch it week to week, so we can kind of tailor our episodes around it. Like maybe we do a spoiler section at the end where we like talk about the stuff that we already know about, and then just approach the episodes as though we don't know what happens. Um, yeah, leave us a comment and let us know um, if you've already seen it, if you've already seen season 1. Or if you plan to watch week to week along with our episodes. And we are going to do live chats too as well. So lots of stuff still to come. And it's going to be an interesting one because I'm starting therapy soon, physical therapy. So I'm going to oh my god, I don't know where I'm going to find the energy. Oh, it's gonna yeah. I'm gonna need a lot of naps. um, but yeah, it's gonna be fun. So definitely stick around and we'll keep chatting with you guys. Um, Pamela, did you have any more like thoughts to add about this episode or this season?
No, I feel like I've said my piece. I just want to thank everyone who's listened to us for 10 episodes. And also the folks that have been joining us for our live streams in addition. That is so awesome. Like, thank you
Yeah.
guys so much for watching these YouTube videos as well, and leaving us comments when you like and subscribe. Like, it means so much to Kelly and I. We're trying to do this full time, sustainably. That's the goal and the dream. And thank you for sticking with us and being part of our journey.
Yeah, thank you. Seriously, it really means a lot. So yeah, share our content if you can, like, subscribe, all that stuff. It really helps us out a lot. And we're going to be doing having some fun events coming up. So we're going to be getting the Patreon active again and yeah, lots of fun stuff.
Oh, Kelly,
So,
before we wrap up, I'm sorry, I just remembered now. Do you still
yeah.
have that sheet we made last episode of all of our theories?
Yes. Yes, I do. How did I almost forget about it? Oh my gosh. Okay.
Let's run
Dirt on
through it.
All right. Dirt on Steve. Well, not quite what we expected.
No. No, not what
Um,
we thought.
yeah. Um, anything like, okay, something totally shocking that we didn't expect. Yeah.
Yes,
Um,
correct. Times 2, I'd say.
yeah. The bag of money, yes. Um, the parenting conversation, no.
No.
We said no, and we were right about that. Okay. So we said we would get some Steve dirt, and we didn't really get the kind that we were expecting. So I'm saying that we got
Yeah.
that one wrong.
Mhm.
We said probably on the shocker. So I'm saying we got that one right.
Okay.
Um the bag of money, we said yes. So
Mhm.
and we got that one right. Um parenting conversation, we said no, so we got that one right.
Nice, nice.
Um Debbie being sick, we said probably, so we got that one right. Um Lisa, um we said yes, so we didn't get that one right.
Okay.
Because nothing was really explained there.
Nope.
Um it, it, Trevor, we said yes, but I don't really know what we said that we would get with Trevor. And all we really got
He'd
was,
come back,
yeah, all we really
which,
got
I
was
mean, I guess
Steve
his
saying talk to him.
mention was, but that doesn't really count for very much.
Yeah, I'm saying we didn't get that one.
Okay, I think that's
I don't.
fair.
Yeah, sleepwalking. We said
No
no.
pertinence whatsoever, apparently.
Yeah. Um, we said we said Isabella's reason for being in Chatham. We said no, and we were right on that.
Mhm.
Um, we uh we said we said yes, we would see Ned. We are wrong on that.
Mhm.
Um, we said that we would revisit the Megan slash Jeff's pills. We didn't. So we were wrong on that. Um, we said that we would hear more about the car accident. So we were right on that.
Mhm.
Um,
Nice, nice.
uh, we we said we wouldn't get an explanation on Debbie's pills, but we kind of did because now we know that she had cancer. Um,
Did she though?
um, and yeah, so that was it. So we got 7 right out of, oh, sorry. Um 8, 9. Okay. We got 10 right out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11. We got 10 right out of 18. So a little more than half.
Okay.
Not terrible.
Okay. Not awful, not awful.
So, yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately some of those were things that we were hoping we would not be right about, but
Yeah.
um but yeah, what can you do? Yeah. I would love to know like what was left out, and
Yeah.
I just feel like something went wrong, and like I don't know.
Yeah, I want to know what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like something happened, and that I feel like there was a mess behind the scenes going on that led to certain things not being resolved.
Totally.
Because this show is too smart for the unresolved stuff that happened. But let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Because I had a big problem with the last couple of episodes of Yellow Jackets season 2.
Yeah, me too.
Um, I thought it was a mess. Well, the adult timeline, I mean.
Yo, yeah,
Um,
same.
yeah, like it was. I mean, it was comedic how they like just threw everything in at the last minute. Um, would you rather have that, or would you rather have stuff just kind of dropped?
See, here's the thing. With a show like Yellow Jackets, if they didn't give us answers, then because it's a serialized show, there's always hope for the next season that they'll answer them.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, with Cruel Summer, because it's an anthology, like knowing that it will never come back to it again, I think is worse.
yeah,
Because at least when it's serialized, you can say, "Oh, well, they didn't have enough time," or they'll cover it next season. It's like with Cruel Summer, like, I mean, unless they really decide to change things, we know they're not coming back, which I feel like is worse.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Um, yeah, like if Cruel Summer pulled a Yellow Jackets, it would have been like the whole town has a meeting about something. They're gonna they're gonna do a search for Luke's body, and everyone starts like talking to each other, and like they're like, did you hear that did you hear that Debbie has cancer? Um, oh no, I didn't. Did you know that Jeff is selling pills? That's if Cruel Summer was Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
Everything comes out in one conversation.
Yeah, it goes boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. 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 Oh my
Tim
god.
and
That
Eric are
that
gossiping. They're like, "Hey man, did you know that Debbie has cancer and she's in remission?" No. Did you know Jeff is selling drugs and videotapes and then giving it back? And if you ever see Megan with pills, that's what it's about, right? No, I didn't know that. Oh, good to know. Hey, did you ever hear anything about Isabella and why she came to town? No, man, but I think it's really fishy. Like, we don't know why she would pick Chatham if she's like an international European girly. Like, weird. Yeah.
Oh my god. Lord.
I would have loved to have
Um
a Tim and Eric scene too. That would have been great, just point blank.
yeah. Yeah,
No Parker in this
definitely.
finale either, which someone messaged us. Sorry I couldn't answer you and tell you. You know, trying to be non-spoilery since we
Yeah.
do have the screeners. No Parker. So sad.
Yeah.
Sorry for
Yeah, it would have
everyone
been
looking for Parker in the finale. I thought Parker was gonna play an integral role. And I mean, I guess she overhears that bit of conversation and repeats it to Jack, and that's what puts Jack on Megan and Isabella, but bummed.
yeah. Yeah, it would have been nice to have seen Katie and Lisa in this one. But
Mhm.
um oh well. Yeah. Hats off again to Braden De La Garza. Just absolute standout of this episode. Like
Yeah.
just unbelievable performance. Um
Same with the actor playing Steve, Paul
uh
Adelstein, I think.
yeah. 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 Um yeah, he I mean he's he's been in lots of other stuff, but I know he was in Private Practice, but
Mhm.
um I personally the only other couple of things that I have seen him in, he was in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and he was a co-creator on Imposters. Um and if I remember correctly, he was in the cast of Imposters.
Mhm.
Um but which I enjoyed. I dropped off of it eventually, but it had a couple of seasons on Bravo. But the first season was a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, I was telling Pamela before we started. What's funny is like for some reason he doesn't give me like rich asshole douchebag vibes. He gives me like I don't know, like quirky nerd or artist type love interest vibes. Um like the super quirky guy next door or something. That's like the single love interest dad who's super quirky and weird and kind of nerdy or
See,
artsy.
for me, he gives trad freeform teen drama
Yeah,
dad with
really.
something up his sleeve. Because like
Okay.
when I think it's because I know I think it's because I know so many quirky artist types that he does not. I mean, that looks like a very straight-laced, straightforward man. If anything, I'd say the man who plays Adam in Yellow Jackets, he looks like he's like an artsy type. He looks
Yeah.
like he does graphic design, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Um
Steve would, like, have, like, tattoos and, like, I don't know, be, like, a lot I just feel like when I think of, like, an artsy, quirky type, I think of, like, a scrawny guy in, like, an oversized t-shirt wearing, like, a beanie with, like, a sleeve of tattoos, and he's got some, like, not like a nicely trimmed beard, like some weird facial hair and like, is just like dressed like a hipster. Like he looks like a very like nice put together dad. I don't think he necessarily seems like he'd be like villainous.
yeah.
But I could see him being he has secrets. He seems like a dad or someone who would be doing like blackmail and Pretty Little Liars.
Okay. But no, it's so funny though because like I he's so good though. Like
Yeah,
he like on the surface looking at him, he just doesn't give me like he doesn't looking at him, he doesn't strike me as the type who would be like I look at him and be like, so he's playing the big bad villain role, huh? Um
yeah.
but he's also not the well, I mean, I have to like I can't really I have a hard time taking any show seriously when they make any villain like, the stereotypical mustache twirling over the top villain.
Right.
Because that's pretty terrible. But they like so, obviously that's they didn't go that route with him, fortunately. But he's so good though. I mean, he's so good. At playing he's so good at playing a complete, like, absolute scumbag that doesn't necessarily but he's like an approachable scumbag.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I wouldn't find that guy intimidating. Like, I wouldn't I wouldn't be afraid to have a conversation with that guy.
He's like the most annoying dad at like a PTA meeting
Yeah.
who will
Yeah,
be like
yeah,
aggressive about something and you're like, "Oh god, this man." Ugh.
yeah,
Or like, it's very like rel not like he's like annoying, but it's like he doesn't feel like, "Oh, that's a man who commits murder." He feels like that's a man who makes your life a living hell
yeah,
on a great scale. You know what I mean? Of like It could be little things like him showing up and being a nuisance, or it could be big as him like suing you.
He's the type of guy who I would feel comfortable um giving it right back to, and telling him where to shove it, and having no fear telling him what I think about him, and then seriously regretting it.
Yeah,
um and basically like and having to and feeling like I have to change my name and my entire identity and leave town because of him. But yeah, the two of them just did like the two of them every this whole cast is great, but like
totally.
um Paul Paul Adelstein, not sure how the correct pronunciation of his name. And Braden Del Garza and Sadie Stanley and Lexi Underwood, just all fantastic jobs this season. Really, really
Totally.
impressive. Yeah. Um, and I'm super excited to talk about season one. And Olivia Holt's incredible performance. She was so good.
Yeah.
So, so good. Um, so yeah. So anyway, please stick around because please keep coming back. We'll see you guys all soon. We will probably keep the live chats on Mondays. Um, same time, just for consistency's sake. Um, and we hope to see a lot of you guys here. We're also going to start doing monthly Yellow Jackets chats too,
Hmm.
because in addition to some like we still want to squeeze in some like Yellow Jackets deep dive. So there's lots of stuff coming. There's
And
lots
some
of
stuff for our Patreon too. Our Patreon is
yeah.
gonna start popping off once Kelly's feeling good, I'm over my cold, and we can get our ducks in a row.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly. So, all right, guys, thanks so much for a great season. This was
Happy
awesome.
cruel summer.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see you all for a season 3. All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.